everybody, it's Kira and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my recent reads, which would be from about February through May of this year. Obviously, I haven't done a wrap-up video in quite a while, and that's because I've been super busy with school, but now school is over and I've graduated, so I can actually talk about the things that I've read. You'll notice that most of them are Jane Austen related books. That's because that was pretty much all I've read. I didn't read a whole ton for fun in the last few months, but because I was busy with school. But I'm very excited to be able to have more time to read for fun in these coming months. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I've read in the past few months. So first up, we have the ever-classic Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have read this one before. This was the only Jane Austen book that I'd read previously, and I quite enjoyed my time reading it. It was interesting to hear all of the different viewpoints on it from my different classmates and to read some more academic articles about the book. And then along with this, we also read Longbourn by Jo Baker. This is the tale of Pride and Prejudice, but told from the servant's point of view. So you get more of a detailed and intricate look at the Bennet household and how it's run, and kind of their thoughts on servants. It's very interesting because there are times when the servants are invisible in Pride and Prejudice, when they're quite obviously still in the same room as the Bennet family, but they don't talk to them, or they talk as if they weren't there, but they are. And so it's a really interesting look at how classic novels can really forget about a whole group of people and not really focus on them. So I'm going to give slight spoilers for Longbourn here, but the main character of Longbourn is named Sarah, and she's one of Elizabeth's maids in waiting, and she does a whole bunch of other things as well. But in the end, we obviously have, Elizabeth going off and marrying Mr. Darcy and then moving out to Pemberley. Well, Sarah comes along, Elizabeth kind of asks, but it's more of a command in a way that Sarah come with Lizzie out to Pemberley. And she does, but she realizes, Sarah realizes that this isn't the life that she wants, even though she has a much, much easier job being at Pemberley because there are so many other servants to do all of the manual labor stuff that then Sarah doesn't have to do, which she did at Longbourn with the Bennet family. And so she actually asks Lizzie if she can leave and go. She falls in love with this guy named James throughout the book, and she wants to go and find James. And Lizzie is kind of I don't understand, this is more freedom here than you had back then, and if I let you go, there's no guarantee that you'll find him. And just her idea, Sarah's idea of freedom and labor and work are so different than Lizzie's is. I don't know, it was very, very fascinating reading this take on this really classic novel that everybody's kind of read, or everybody knows the story of, and kind of turning it on its head a little bit and seeing the more ugly side of the Bennet household and just the world at that time, because we kind of get a very picture pretty view of the world at that time in Pride and Prejudice. And so Longbourn allowed it to kind of get more real in a way. And it was very interesting. And if you really like Pride and Prejudice, I encourage you to read Longbourn. It brings up a lot of really good topics and discussion points, and I don't know, it was really fascinating. After that, I read Mansfield Park. This was my least favorite Jane Austen book by far. It's so long. My copy was 450 pages, and nothing happens. It was bizarre, which to be fair, you kind of could argue the same thing about all of Jane Austen's novels, because it's not the same kind of plot as an action book or an adventure book I really enjoy reading. But even so, Mansfield Park was so long and just boring, and I didn't care for any of the characters. I actually didn't mind Fanny Price as the narrator and as the main character. I didn't mind her that much. I know she's typically thought of as the least important and the least I don't know, enjoyable of Jane Austen's main characters, but I didn't mind her that much. I thought she was like vaguely annoying, but she is kind of like, whatever, but there was too many characters in this one. There's so many, if you follow like a bigger group of people that like all stick together, and I could never tell apart who was who, especially because like they always refer to each other as their last names, and like there's like two sisters, and then there's like this other guy and his family, and like some of them are married but some of them aren't, and I just like couldn't keep any of it straight, and it's so long. The audiobook is like 13 hours. And the only reason that I finished it was because of the audiobook. If I'd had to like sit down and read it, I probably would not have finished in time, but I did because of the audiobook. But I sat and listened to the audiobook for so long. It's just very boring, and I did not appreciate the story, and I thought it was kind of weird how she got married. Is his name Edmund as well? I don't know, the guy that was like kind of taking care of her, she ended up marrying, and I found that kind of weird, but I don't know. This one was, yeah, my least favorite. After that, I read one that I actually really enjoyed, and that was Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Catherine Morland as the main character was just really interesting. Her love of Gothic novels made it super fun. She thought of everything as kind of like this mystery novel, and she was kind of looking for more adventure than she necessarily found. There's this one scene that I really liked that was kind of Jane Austen, like, I don't know, mimicking the Gothic novels of her time, and it's when Catherine is in her bedroom late at night and it's like stormy out, and she like wants to try and open this cabinet thing that's locked, and just the way that Austen wrote that scene was just so like vivid in my head, and it was so cool. I really appreciated like Catherine's love of books, and I found her romance like not as bad. I found Edmund, right, this one's Edmund, I think. I can't remember. They all have like very similar names. There's also like 50 Johns in like her Austen's novels. But the love interest in this one, I'm pretty sure it's Edmund, I found like a lot more enjoyable to read about. I didn't like her friend Isabel and her brother. They kind of annoyed me, but I enjoyed like this book overall and thought it was really interesting. So yeah, I really actually enjoyed this one and would consider rereading it at a point in the future. And then the last book that I read for my Jane Austen class was Emma. This one I found, I don't know, I didn't mind it. It definitely wasn't as bad as Mansfield Park by any means, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I had enjoyed Northanger Abbey. Emma is kind of a meddler, and she likes to get in everybody else's love affairs. I did find it weird, her love interest. I didn't really like that. Is she the one who gets... No, hers is Mr. Knightley, John Knightley. And I don't know, I didn't mind it, but I did find it a little weird because, like, he has this one line about how, like, when she was 13, he was, like, 27 or something. It was, like, it's a really big age gap, and I found that a little weird, but I don't know. I didn't mind this book as much as the other ones, but I probably won't reread it in the future. One thing about these Jane Austen novels is that I really haven't seen any of the adaptations except for Pride and Prejudice. I've seen the BBC version with Colin Firth, and then the 2005 one, of course. And then I've also seen the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice in modern day, which is really incredible, and everybody should go watch them. They're on YouTube. Please watch them. They're really, really good. But for the most of them, I haven't seen any adaptations, so I'm really excited and looking forward to sitting down and watching some more adaptations now that I have, like, actual time to sit down and watch movies. And I'm curious to know if any of the movie adaptations will make me enjoy any of the books more or less. Speaking of adaptations, the next two books that I read were Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I reread these because the TV show was coming out, and I was like, I remember Six of Crows pretty well, but I don't remember, like, the specific things that happened in Shadow and Bone. So, I reread Shadow and Bone to start with, and I was like, this book is okay, but you can tell that Six of Crows is so much better. I think just being in Alina's head by herself just narrows the world so much, and then, like, in Six of Crows, you really get, like, a broader view of the world because you get more characters actually like narrating the story. But I enjoyed my time with it, and it's really funny because you can tell that there's something off with Mel and his tracking from the get-go. You don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but you know that there's something different about it because of how often that she mentions it. Like, she mentions it all the time, that he can, like, find these things that nobody else can. It's like, there's something going on there, you know? So I was really happy to reread this. And then, of course, Six of Crows. My children, I love them. I love this book. This book is, like, written so well, and the way that the heist plays out is incredible. I just love this book so much. And then I have a couple videos on my thoughts on the TV show. I don't think I ever sat down and, like, did, like, an overview kind of thing, but I have my reaction to the trailers and a vlog where me and my friends watched the entire show the night that it came out. It was incredible, amazing. It was right after my birthday, so it was a great, like, late birthday present to myself. The show, I think, did a really incredible job of, like, combining the two storylines, which everybody was very concerned about, including myself. And like I said with Shadow and Bone, how it, like, very much narrows the world, being only in Alina's point of view. I feel like because we got to see Mal's story and, like, what he was going through, it just made his character so much better and, like, more in depth than we got to see in the books. I think that depth is in the books, but Alina can't see it, and so, like, we as the audience don't get to see it. Because the only thing they really changed from his character to the show was he was less likely to, like, snap at Alina for stuff that had happened in the palace. That's kind of it. But other than that, like, he's pretty much the same character, but we actually get to see what he's going through, and I found that that really helped, and I think just made the show more enjoyable too. But, I mean, the show was incredible. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's really, really good. And then to finish out my month, because I haven't read it at all this year, I had to, of course, reread A Number in the Ashes. I'm sure you're sick of me talking about this for years on end, but it's an incredible book. There was only, like, one or two things that I caught this time through, because I haven't read this book since the last book came out. So it was really interesting. There was, like, a couple things that I was like, ooh, that comes back around in the last book. But this book is just my favorite of all time. Still is. Moon Festival is still my favorite scene. I have a cool video coming up that I'm going to film soon where I actually got to adapt part of this book as a screenplay for a class. So I'm going to be talking about that in a later video. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to sit down and reread this to kind of finish out. And also, it's been a tradition of mine to read this at the end of the school year anyways, to kind of celebrate, like, school being over and I can read for fun again. So I just had to, like, finish it off. So if you haven't read Ember, I don't know what to tell you except that it's an amazing YA fantasy series, and this book is a masterpiece, and I love it so much. But yeah, those are all the books that I've read in the past few months. If you've read any of them, comment down below and let me know what your thoughts of them were. I'd love to chat about any of them or my Jane Austen class or anything in particular. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that in the comments below. If you want to follow me on social media, all my links will be in the description as always. And thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!